All right, good evening, Midwest Star Wars fanatics. We are back. That's right, we are back, everybody, and it's great to be talking Star Wars. I am here today with Travis.
Hello,
First of all,
hello.
want to give a shout out to our sponsor, TRG Toys and Collectibles. Make sure you check them out, trgtoys.com. And also, you can find our work at the hashtag show at the hashtagshow.com and our social media handles, which are right over here somewhere.
Hey,
All
I
right,
figured got the
so.
right side this time.
So it has been a long time. We are glad to be back here and talking Star Wars. We have a lot of great stuff to talk about. And first, before anyone calls it out and notice it, yes, I know I'm missing a poster in the back. It is getting signed. So it is driving me crazy. And I just want to get out there for someone to start saying something. Yes, it is missing. I know. But we do have a lot to talk about tonight. We had a lot of great content, these past few months come out.
Well, great. Some great, maybe some
Great. Yeah.
not as great. We'll talk
Well,
about it, but
we'll get into that, and we'll see what some of you guys feel and everything. Also, too, feel free to leave comments, ask questions. We want to know your thoughts. We're talking about everything. And the first thing we are going to talk about is probably, I think, one Star Wars storytelling we have seen in a while. And no, I'm not talking about Andor. I am talking about Tales of the Jedi. What an amazing story piece. When we saw this at Star Wars Celebration in California, it was shocking. Like, it was kind of like, what are we going to get from this? They were talking about, oh, this is going to be dark. This is going to be something we can't show during, here, because we don't want you guys to see the darkness of how it's going to be. And, it left us thinking, what are we getting into? What is this going to be? And, Travis, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this series. Because, it was short. It was 6 amazing episodes with about, 11 to 15 minutes long, but it answered so many questions that a lot of us Star Wars fans have been asking for years.
yeah.
And just, so Travis, just, what was your thoughts on this, and everybody else? I would like to know your opinions as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think when we had the privilege to kind of luck out and get to see the first episode out at the Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim earlier this year. So we'd seen, episode 1 of it. So we kind of knew the general tone, the animation style. And then really, I think it was great listening to Filoni kind of talk about his inspiration behind it, why he wanted to do this. And just, going into it, I was pretty excited. I was like, hey, Jedi, as everybody knows, typically I'm not the biggest fan of the Jedi stories. I like the non-Jedi stuff. So Tales of the Jedi is not necessarily in my wheelhouse of things I really like about Star Wars, but these were really excellent, well-told stories. I think it really did benefit from that, 15-minute runtime, because Filoni had very specific things he wanted to show: the progression of Ahsoka and the progression of Dooku from like a character development arc. And he was able to take advantage of, hey, we've got 15 minutes. We've got to make the stories tight. We've got to get to the point. We don't have time to kind of meander around and throw in a bunch of random cameos and stuff. It's like, nope, we've got to tell the story we want to tell.
Yeah, it's like you can tell I'm just like chomping at the bit, because this has been one of, like, I was so devastated when it was over. Like, it was like, oh man, these are great. In episode 6, it was like, oh, I want more. This has been great. So we'll talk a little bit about good old Ahsoka. Move over Baby Yoda. We now have Baby Ahsoka. But the story that that we've got from this, how her mom takes her out hunting, and she witnesses death, but then we realize she has that power of the Jedi. And then real quick, Joe Murray, thank you for commenting as well. I forgot to mention that when it popped up. We will get into the Yaddle story in a minute. My poor heart. We'll get into that, but yeah, the Ahsoka story was just amazing, and then it just grabbed you, like the way they transitioned. Talk about storytelling and talking about excitement. When Dave Filoni took that story and just transitioned everything from, Ahsoka showing her Jedi powers to then her training with Anakin, and then doing those spinning moves and everything, and then then it goes right into the Clone Wars, and then the funeral of Padme, and just like, it's like, oh my God, like, we just got so much stuff crammed at us at an amazing rate of speed, but it was so good.
Yeah,
that's what I just can't get over. just the Ahsoka storyline. We haven't started talking about Dooku yet, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just wow.
Yeah, I mean because there was three Ahsoka stories, and I think it was the middle one where she encounters the Inquisitor, right? Or was that
No, that's the third one. The
that's the
third one.
third one? Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting I'm getting mixed up. It's been a while now. I mean, that was a really cool story. I mean, the Padme funeral thing was definitely, emotional. The encounter with, Bail Organa and like, hey, bringing him back into the mix. But then the training sort of episode with Anakin and her dealing with all the clone troopers, and then just the way it cuts from the training to fight like against the clone troopers, which she's thinking, hey, this is just for actual training to get better. And then it comes full circle into her and Rex getting ready to walk into the hangar
Yeah.
there at the end of season 7. How, because we all know how that ends, the Order 66 and all of that.
Yeah.
And Rex was like, I hope all that training, was worth it, or pays off here. So kind of the book ending it with what we already know happens was really well done.
Yeah, and that Inquisitor, I wish we could have had more about that Inquisitor.
That was the only thing I was disappointed. I was like, all right, this is gonna be a really cool Inquisitor fight, and this was like the worst Inquisitor ever. Like he must have been like brother number 12 or something. Like he was just terrible. He was no good.
The way he was talking, he knew who Ahsoka was. And so what was the connection? Who was this person? And if they somewhere came out and told us, let us know, everybody, because I have not found it yet. But he knew who Ahsoka was. Obviously, he probably knows by studying. They're looking for a Jedi, but there was something there that there was a weird connection or something that.
Yeah, but that guy looked. I mean, in the previews and stuff, I was like, this guy looks like a badass, and then he was like, which I mean, like it. We couldn't have a huge, long, drawn out fight. That's not the point of the story. Wasn't the Inquisitor battle? It was the character progression and story arc for Ahsoka. But man, hopefully maybe that Inquisitor will live in some EU books or comics or something. Because he seemed like a cool character. I want to know more about him.
Hopefully we get him back. But then we had another storyline that we never really had a lot about, and it was just, to me, it just made you question the Jedi even more. So I don't know if you can look at this as a villain or not. This really kind of makes you look at how things went. But obviously, we're talking about Dooku.
Mm-hmm.
So, he had a different way of looking at things, which we saw in the first episode when him and young Qui-Gon were, trying to rescue the senator's son that was kidnapped. And we saw how, Dooku just kind of took things in his own hands and didn't care what the rules were. He wanted resolution. So again, everybody, I would like to know your thoughts on the Dooku storyline. I mean, Travis, what did you get from this? How many oh my god moments did you have? And obviously Joe Murray, we're going to talk about Yaddle. I was not expecting us to get Yaddle back in the story the way we got Yaddle back in the story. So, I mean, Travis, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the first episode where Dooku and Qui-Gon had to deal with, the kidnapped senator's son, and you can see Dooku had his own sort of sense of right and wrong, his own brand of justice, if you will, on what actually, is right. Compared to maybe what the Jedi Order would say. And I always think it's interesting when, again, use the word, I guess, villain, characters aren't just bad. You have a reason to understand like why they are the way they are. So you have a little bit more context now for, Dooku wasn't necessarily seduced by the dark side because he wanted to be powerful or he wanted to rule the galaxy or anything like that. He thought the Jedi had kind of lost their way, and this was his way of, I guess, kind of course correcting or helping, trying to actually, I think, do something good with it. He kind of just lost his faith in the Jedi. And, the moment where you see him kind of receive the news of Qui-Gon being killed was, kind of, again, it's an emotional thing because you knew he was his apprentice. But now it kind of all makes more sense when he talks about, like, he meets Obi-Wan as, Qui-Gon always spoke so highly of you, kind of a thing. And, like, Qui-Gon's kind of like his son that he lost because in his mind, like, the hypocrisy of the Jedi caused, Qui-Gon. And you just wonder, had Qui-Gon not lived, or had Qui-Gon lived, how differently everything would have been, whether it was Anakin and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, just the entire galaxy. Qui-Gon was a very central character. His death really set a lot of things spiraling out of control.
Yep. And it's just like, and then, we saw, because we knew the stories of Yaddle wanting to leave the Jedi Order and left it because she didn't believe in the path it was going in. But then we actually finally see it. And, it was just, it was interesting first to hear what she was going to sound like, which was voiced by Bryce Dallas Howard. And just amazing that they kept her like with a normal kind of voice. Of course, obviously Filoni, or I forgot who it was that said that Yoda had a different talk to kind of honor his master. But so we had just a normal kind of talking little Yoda creature. But it was just so emotional just seeing that. And then Dooku striking her down and really kind of setting the rest of his path.
Yeah, you could definitely tell too, like Dooku, he was very reluctant. He did not necessarily want to do that. It was almost kind of, like forced into it by the puppet master Palpatine, who pulls the strings for
everybody,
apprentice after apprentice after apprentice, all the way to somehow Palpatine's returned years later. He's always pulling the strings on stuff.
Yeah, so it was an emotional ride to seeing that, and bringing her in like that, and then just having her being bumped off, and because no one really knew what her fate was until that moment. And so it was definitely a kind of like that heart-wrenching, like, oh my gosh, we got Yaddle, and then bam, she was gone, the punk rock Yoda with a beautiful soul. But yeah, it was just, man, just the stories from that was
and I'm just, and the more, obviously there's tons of Jedi, whether it's Jedi we know about, like Quinlan Vos, there's more stories to be told there potentially, or Asajj Ventress, maybe some origin stuff with her, or maybe characters we haven't seen yet in live action or animated, like Old Republic stuff. Like, I hope that this becomes maybe like a regular thing, that maybe every year, every other year, every so often we get these small little stories, because they were just excellent contributions, I think, to the overall story and lore that Star Wars has.
Yeah, so I really do hope we get more, and even like not even Jedi stories. Like, this would be great to see, like stuff for like Jango Fett.
Yeah, Tales of the Bounty Hunter. Let's do a Degnar thing. Let's do these just random little three episode things, because there's, when you think about how much we've seen of with the exception of like Anakin and Obi-Wan, who we've seen their entire lives played out before us. There's so many other parts of Mace Windu or Yoda, there's all these Jedi have kind of these untold stories that could easily become small little 15, 30-minute adventure things.
Yeah, and that's what's Joe Murray, but the timeline would not allow Grogu to be Yoda and Yaddle's child. I'm okay with that. So am I. And we're gonna talk a little bit about good old baby Yoda in a little while, but we'll get into that one. But yeah, it's just Dave Filoni knocked that out of the park. We couldn't ask for much more, with some of the answers that we got. Knowing that Ahsoka was at Padme's funeral, how she started, pretty much becoming the fulcrum because she thought she was walking away from everything. So great stories, loved it. So now we're going to talk about the next series that came out, and this one, obviously, I've got mixed feelings. I know I'm going to get some hate mail from this, but it's not one of my favorites, but it's not bad either. So, of course, we're talking about, that took a while, Andor. Travis, before I can put my thoughts out on everything, I'll let you kind of start. I know we talked a little bit about this before the show, but it's just there were some things that I love. There were some things that I hated. And I'll just put it out there right now. I hate flashbacks with a passion. So that's one of the reasons I didn't like the Book of Boba Fett. And part of the reason why I did not start in like Andor at first. So Travis, I'll let you go into it, and then I'll talk about what I felt. But let's hear what your thoughts were, and also everybody, I would like to hear what you guys thought about Andor as well too.
Yeah. Andor. Okay. Yeah, so it's the first time we've had a chance to talk about this since it actually came out. And I think leading up to it, we were both kind of in the same boat where we really liked Rogue One. We liked the
Mhm.
character Andor. We both, you love bounty hunters. I love smugglers. We like a lot of the non Jedi characters and stories that are out there. So leading up to this, it was like, hey, sweet. This is done by Tony Gilroy, the Jason Bourne guy. Andor is like a rebel spy. I was going into it thinking I'm going to get some, spy thriller type stuff. And there was a little bit of, Andor, you know, going undercover
Yeah,
and like the heist job that they did on Aldani. Um, I appreciated the character development of Andor, kind of showing how he eventually becomes. We'll see what happens in season 2, but it's eventually going to lead to him becoming the character he's in Rogue One, this kind of more hardened, almost ruthless, do anything to succeed against the Empire. We have no idea if we watch Rogue One, why does he hate the Empire so much? Now, from season 1 of Andor, we have a little bit more understanding or context to that. My only complaint, and a lot of people talk about, oh, I like the fact that it was slow and took its time developing the story and building out its narrative, and it wasn't, didn't rely on action and all that sort of stuff. That's fine. Some people do like that. Just because something's slow and drawn out, though, doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Does
yeah,
also mean it's bad. So I think the argument of, well, if you don't like Andor, then you're just, a fanboy. You don't appreciate like higher class, storytelling. No, I think it's a false narrative. That's a false argument.
yeah.
I think there were times that episodes did drag on.
Hmm.
I could pick out a couple episodes where I got done and I'm like, I mean, I feel like literally nothing happened to progress the story
Yeah,
other than we introduced a new character or we got 10 minutes of real content that mattered spread across a 35 to 40-minute episode. But then they would follow back up then with like a more action-packed episode. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do more of this. But then it would go back to 2 or 3 long, slow, drawn out episodes. So again, I'm not going to come in and say, hey, this is bad. It wasn't enjoyable to watch. I still enjoyed it. It's like a 7.5, maybe 7 out of 10 for me. So again, still better than a lot of other stuff that gets created, just not my favorite,
yeah.
Star Wars content that's come out as of late.
Yeah, I was the same way. Like I said, I'll put out here now, guys. It wasn't bad. Wasn't great. And that's the way I look at it. And me, I love Star Wars content. Like I love I'm into this bald head of mine. And it's just there were some parts that it was just so slow for me. And I think we really got like I know what got me, and like kind of like you said a little bit. I got that Rogue One mentality in me where it was
Mhm.
hey, they're sneaking in to scare us, they're going to do this. And, but what we got instead was, and I will say, some of the best in depth Star Wars character building that we've ever seen. That I will give Andor huge credit for because
Mhm.
we dove into characters deeper than we ever have in Star Wars. Before it's been, hey, here's a quick character, boom, this is this, oh, they're dead. There you go, here we go. And I think that was the hardest part for me to keep pushing on with Andor, was knowing the outcome.
Mhm.
Um and knowing like this is what's happening, this is what's going on. And then it seemed like some of the episodes were kind of repetitive to me. It was just kind of like, okay, Andor gets stuck, he's doing this. It was kind of like the Mandalorian without the fights. Oh,
Mhm.
here's another quest for Andor to get done. And that's the way most stories are going to be. I know that, but just like the prison scenes and stuff, it was interesting. But like there was times where we just watched them work. There was really no dialogue.
Mhm.
It was just work, build thing. Oh, we're going to get shot. Work, build thing. We're
Yeah.
going to get shot.
Yeah, and I hadn't thought too much about that. You made that good comment there, the repetitive thing. I was getting ready to comment. I did like the other characters that we got introduced to. The Luthen character, some more background on Mon Mothma, the appearance from Saw Gerrera again. We got some good moments like that, but like Mon Mothma, for example, like I feel like halfway through the season, it just became for her character. How many times we could talk about how we have to hide this money from the Empire?
Yeah.
And that just became her whole story arc. Like at first, it was building up like her and Luthen kind of on the same team at different viewpoints. It's like, okay, is that going to kind of turn into to something? It just ultimately ended up becoming, well, Mom Mothma she has money she needs to hide, and now that's like 3 episodes of her development. There's kind of just so much potential, and maybe this is season 2. I guess is supposed to be more time jumpy. I guess because we're still several years out from Rogue One, and I think this season 2 is supposed to basically lead up to where Rogue One picks up. So I'm assuming there'll be maybe a couple time jumps involved that maybe gets more into Andor becoming Andor super spy.
Yeah, and like in Lutheran and like great characters. I loved, like I said, I loved them. They were good like characters. The Mom Mothra, you were right though. It was very, very slow. It was more like we were watching her having family problems than we were watching, her trying to build a rebellion. And but like I said, the in-depth storytelling. And then Joe, I'll bring up his comment here again real quick. Season 2 is going to be awesome. The building of the rebellion. All these people, and hopefully, K2SO will finally get him involved because he's probably now my favorite droid. Sorry to all the R2 lovers out there, but I think K2SO is number 1 for me on there. And then more Saw Gerrera as well. There's so many characters out there that, again, when we saw some buildings, but there's 2, Travis, I want you to talk about a little bit. There's one, I loved her character, and the other one, I wanted to reach into the screen and wring his neck. I don't know what it was that triggered me with him, but obviously I'll bring him up here on the screen right now.
So I think Daedra, really cool character. I enjoyed kind of the inner look into like the ISB and sort of their thought process on, hey, how can we take advantage of what the rebels are doing and make it even harder for people? And that's like playing in the rebels' hands. And you see that, Andor falls victim to that with like the increased sentencing guidelines and people getting thrown in these prisons. And they're basically the Empire's grassroots building the rebellion that eventually takes them out because of their heavy-handed, tactics and things that they're doing. But yeah, her character was really cool. Every scene she was in, even though she's like the bad guy, was interesting. I found her character just be very enjoyable. The other guy, I'm trying to remember this, Cyril, right? Yeah, Cyril.
Yep.
Yeah, because Cyril's Serial is how I remember him. It's just this. It is probably totally intentional. He's supposed to make me feel uncomfortable. He just seems like this like twerp kind of guy that like we all have coworkers that are like this guy who want to get ahead and they really have no basis or actually maybe even really any skills, or just somehow keep getting promoted to these roles, and they're overachievers and they think they're deserved more than they actually are getting, and they shouldn't be. He's just a very odd character. Then he turns into like a stalker almost. I don't know if he has some sort of like fatal attraction sort of situation here with like Deidre. So we'll see what happens.
I was waiting for him to dig a hole or something if they're like put the lotion on.
I mean. And then his mom character was just a very interesting character too. Like, I'm gonna call up your uncle who's gonna like put in a good word for you. It's just he's a very strange character. But I think he was kind of uncomfortable on purpose. I guess I'll give him credit in that regard. That mission accomplished.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Andor's mom, Clem. So I will say, like, again, the last couple episodes is what saved me, obviously, for Andor, because then it felt more Star Wars again. But her speech was pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed it. It was pretty awesome. And then you see the whole rebellion start kind of there and everything. So, I mean, what do you think about the speech and the kind of how she actually is kind of like the fire starter in a way for this, for Andor and stuff?
Yeah, no, I mean, her speech was really cool. I was a little, maybe not surprised, I was a little surprised to a degree that her passing or death was kind of done off screen. Although I guess if it had been on screen, it wouldn't have necessarily changed too much. It just felt kind of weird that all of a sudden we started an episode and she's dead and we didn't really see it coming. But yeah, I mean, the speech was great. Her character arc and kind of helping be what's going to spur Andor into caring more about the rebellion than he did originally is definitely well done. And then, you know, his little droid buddy, you know, at the end, it was even kind of emotional for B2 Emo. I like, you know, so he, you know, didn't want to leave, and Andor had some good interactions like, oh, you're not coming with us. So you almost feel sorry for this droid even. So from that character development standpoint, it was definitely good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely, you know, good storytelling on that aspect. We got really into the depth of, you know, the characters and stuff. And, you know, and obviously, you know, we got Saw and everything else. And then, you know, the prison scene, I can't swim.
Yeah.
That was the other kind of fun thing, was I sat there and thought about all these people just jumped into this random water out in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, I don't know. It was kind of weird for me, but that scene, the escape scene, was pretty awesome. They did pretty good with that.
Yeah, I mean that's where, I mean, we can talk about the slowness of the story, the, you know, the plot, things like that. But the one thing that Andor did just, you know, stand out, excellent job on, was the character development. You know, Andor himself, you know, Bix, Marva, Deidre, Chemo here.
And I said Clem. Why did I say? I'm sorry. I got a Marva. Boy, I went way off on that one.
Well, Clem was his sort of adopted father.
Yeah,
who got you know, hung out there in Rick's Road or whatever that square was, and they had that little mini flashback. I mean, Andor did an excellent job, I think, building up these characters. You know, Luthen was a brand new character introduced. They did an excellent job building that character up and giving him a purpose, and his own monologue, kind of an underbelly of Coruscant there, talking about everything he sacrificed. And so, I mean, I think they did a really, really good job with that. And I think because it was a slower moving series, it did give them time to do that. It just, at times, I can appreciate what they're doing, but at the same time, not be, I guess, fall in love with it. Like, it's like, I get what you're doing and I appreciate it, but I wish there was a little bit more action.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you. Hopefully season 2 will fix that and get a lot more going on with that as well. But one thing that we know we're probably going to get a lot of action in coming up here in March, the Mandalorian season 3. You know, we got a little sneak peek of it during the Book of Boba Fett, which was pretty awesome. But just to kind of get ready for the Mandalorian, why don't we just sit back real quick and let's watch the teaser again.
This is the one that you saved? You are as its father. A clan of 2. But you have removed your helmet. Then you are a Mandalorian no more.
Your cult fractured our people. Where were you then? Did you think your dad was the only Mandalorian?
All right, kid. Hang on. You ready for an adventure?
I still get chills watching it. I cannot wait. We're talking the Mandalorian, and I still remember Star Wars Celebration in Chicago, and we got to see part of this and get introduced to Mando and everything, and it's how much it's progressed and the stories that we've got, and and obviously Baby Yoda and whatever's going to happen with him and everything. If we don't get the answer of who saved this kid, I'm going to be ticked first off. I just want to know finally who I get to blame. But also just, I think this is finally, we're getting what, fans like myself who've been like, a Boba Fett fan from the moment that I saw the toy to, being excited about Mandalorians during the Clone War. And we're finally going to see that battle in live action, I think. And I'll get more into that because I'm getting like excited. I'm like, I'm like Chris Farley right now. I'm just like, just getting ready to go. But Travis, I mean, what are you expecting? What are your thoughts? And just like, how excited are you for this?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited about this. It seemingly based on the trailer, this very Mandalorian focused story that we're going to get into here in this next season. Obviously, we have Bo-Katan and the whole Darksaber, and that's however that's going to play out. But then those scenes that you see of like, now whether they're flashbacks, hopefully not, and they're actually happening in real time. But like, I mean, how cool is it to see like 5 Mandalorians like jump out of a ship and like jetpack down to the streets of like a city and start blasting away. I mean, that's super cool. I mean, that's like every Star Wars fan's like dreams thing to see, like a bunch of Mandalorians, go into battle together and things like that. So I'm very, very excited about that. I mean, the Grogu stuff, we'll see kind of how that progresses. Looked like we were back on Navarro at some point because we had Grief Karga make an appearance. Yep. We have Pelimoto. We've got Babu Frick apparently going to show up in this. So we'll get kind of all those characters we sort of built up over the last couple seasons making a return. Yeah. So definitely very excited for March for this season to start up.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, the biggest thing we got to look at, and like it's weird. And I'm actually I'm gonna write something up about this week. So here's a sneak peek, everyone. But no one's talking about how Mando has the Darksaber. Like, he is technically the ruler of Mandalore right now. So he needs to do some research. And obviously, I think that's what happens in this season, because obviously it looks like he has a little, clan building up. Mm-hmm. But it's funny because the armor is like making up rules now, saying he's not a Mando anymore and everything.
Right.
And, he's got the Darksaber, so he's as Mando.
Yeah, I've been I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not a Mandalorian anymore. Well, this Darksaber says otherwise. And we didn't talk about either. I mean, the return of Dr. Pershing in the trailer as well. So that's the thing too. We can't forget about. We can't forget about Moff Gideon and the whole cloning thing and that facility they found on Navarro in season 2. I mean, there's still that thread to pull on. So I mean, this is a different kind of, I guess, world building, whereas Andor did it slowly over one season. The Mandalorian now has been able to sort of world build over 2 seasons, now leading into a third. So they've got all these things they've been creating over the last, few years now that they can start capitalizing on.
Yeah, and just think of like the connections that we've seen with everything between Ahsoka. Obviously Thrawn is probably going to be a part of this, and it's just, we got so much storytelling in this season, and obviously Boba Fett will probably be involved as well, and that's where, and this is my prediction with this, is I really think that Mando and Boba Fett are going to start a new clan, and you're going to have the first 3 members are going to be him, Boba Fett, and Grogu, with a little Mandalorian armor, but and then we're going to see them, and then we're going to see Bo-Katan, and then we're going to see the armor, and then all of a sudden we're going to have 3 fractions just going right at it. You know, what's going to happen? Who knows? But I really think that we're going to get some amazing battles. This is what I've been wanting. And this is what I thought the Mandalorian was going to be. Because if you guys remember first, I was a little disappointed because I thought it was going to be a bunch of Mandalorians kicking each other's butts and kind of like in the Clone Wars, and we're battling for power. And then come to find out, obviously, it wasn't that way. So much stuff on here. But like I said, I want to know the answer of who saved Baby Yoda. We got so close. We know that he was in the Jedi Temple. But we still don't have the answers yet on that. But then the other question is, what are they going to do with Cara Dune? You know, and I'm not going to get into politics and all the stuff about all that, but she was a good character in The Mandalorian. So now is she going to be off? Like, are they going to say that she's off at a mission somewhere? Did she get killed? Like, I'm anxious to see how they're going to write that character out because she was a big part of this whole storyline. So
yeah, and I mean, it must have had. Because again, I remember back to, I think it was Investor Day, like 2020, I can't remember what year it was even. Everything's a blur. I remember them talking about, you know, Ahsoka, Boba Fett, Mandalorian, Rangers of the New Republic was supposed to be a thing that I know it was supposed to be, the Cara Dune's character was supposed to be like the principal for that. Because when they talked about it, they alluded to the Star Wars series that are kind of all part of the Mando verse timeline that we're in right now as being kind of akin to what Marvel was doing. Yeah. Like there's going to be individual stories, but like we see with Book of Boba Fett, even though it's Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian's there, Ahsoka's there, and I expect in Mandalorian season 3, Boba Fett may be there, Ahsoka may be there. They're doing this entire kind of cohesive world building. And they were supposed to, I think, eventually be leading up to something out. Maybe like the Thrawn and Moff Gideon team up, the villain. But yeah, the whole Rangers thing, I think, definitely was supposed to be a component to this. And the whole Gina Carano thing just sort of blew that up. And I'm not sure how they're going to adjust. You know, I've got a potential Ranger replacement here. Who've been busy protecting Mos Pelgo, aka Freetown, Cobb Vanth, who's still alive, last seen in the Bacta tank with Boba Fett. You know, maybe they do something there because obviously they had plans to do something in that vein. Even the X-Wing pilots and stuff that they kind of introduced in season 1 and 2 seemed like they're planning to use them in this Rangers thing as well. So hopefully Disney's got some sort of plan in place to fill that gap.
Yeah, we need something. You know, as much as I love, you know, I'm a huge fan of the Disney Plus stuff, but I really need something on the big screen soon. Like it
seems like every time they announce something, it seems like about 6 months later, it's like, well, that project's been canceled or that's not going to happen, and you know, Rogue Squadron is somewhere on the shelf. Taiki Waititi's thing, that's who knows where that's at. It's very odd that there seems to be not much of a focus on the feature film side for Star Wars.
Yeah,
but I mean, I guess thank God we have Disney Plus because that's been able to keep the well going.
I mean, we've got a lot of stuff coming. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, we've got Ahsoka, we've got the Bad Batch, you know.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Bad Batch season 2.
You know, we'll talk about that on the next episode. We'll get into that and Omega and, you know, the Boba Fett's sister. So interesting storyline there that I don't know if they're going to do more with or not. But yeah, just we've got so much good content. You know, I'm everyone knows I'm a huge Ahsoka fan, so I'm very excited to see what the Ahsoka's series is going to be about. And I'm anxious to see, you know, are they going to use, you know, time travel and stuff, because obviously that was brought up in, you know, Star Wars Rebels, you know, and Ezra. You know, is he going to show her the world between worlds? I mean, she knows it's there. That's how she got saved. You know, obviously, timeline Vader killed her, or she died. You know, as the Sith Temple collapsed. We don't know, but then we know Ezra pulled her through and saved her. So now we've got, you know, are they going to start using that a little bit? So it's interesting to see which way we're going to go with that. And it's the reason I think that's because part of her title screen looks like, you know, the map for the world between worlds.
Oh, right. Yeah. The circles with the, yeah.
So it's going to be a great, I think it's going to be a great story. I'm anxious to see Thrawn on live action. and everything there. And then obviously, we got the Acolyte coming, which is like the stuff I still got to get more of. I'll admit I have not gotten into, the High Republic stuff.
Yeah.
I really got to sit down
The most I learned about that was sitting in the panel about Phase 2 of the High Republic when the authors talked about what happened in Phase 1. So I got kind of a crash course because, yeah, again, my struggle with that is it's all High Republic. It's Jedi. It's so Jedi focused that it's like, man, there's not a smuggler or bounty hunter really to be seen. It's all about the Jedi. But I mean, from what I've heard, it seems like people that have gotten into it do enjoy it. So it seems like it is kind of another era to get interested in. And like you said, the Acolyte's supposed to take place, I think, towards the tail end of that, leading up to maybe, I think it's 100 years before Phantom Menace, maybe, give or take.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be how the Sith kind of started building up. So that will be cool when that comes out as well.
I'll have to try to get our good old buddy JJ on the show, because I know he's been pretty much following and reading those books and stuff, so we can get him to maybe talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, then the other Star Wars thing that I totally forgot is the Jude Law, the Skeleton Crew thing that's supposed to be coming out as well. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of really awesome Star Wars content that's coming out almost kind of continuously, like multiple times a year now. We're going to have a Star Wars series or something to watch, which is great.
Yeah. So a lot of great stuff, everybody. We're gonna have a lot of stuff to talk about. Very excited about that. We're getting ready to wrap up for tonight. But we are going to talk. We're going to be back next week. We're going to be back kind of on a regular schedule again, because I know how much we all love Star Wars, and there's always a lot to talk about. Next week, the one topic I really want to talk about, so if everybody wants to think and get on this, is we're talking about collectibles a little bit and about the market today with them, and the prices of new figures and stuff like that. Is collecting, is prices pushing people away from collecting? I mean, obviously it's crazy, $100 for a Black Series figure. So we'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about the Bad Batch. I'm very excited about that season, especially after seeing the trailer. And especially since that trailer that we've seen at Celebration was different than the trailer that's out right now. So there's a couple things in there I spoiled a little bit when I was there. And sorry, because I thought that was in the regular trailer. But we got a lot of great things going on. For everybody who's local, we got a great event coming up this weekend. I want to talk about. We're actually going to be having two events. The first one is going to be this weekend. And we are doing a toy drive for the Ronald McDonald House Charities. We're going to be at one of our favorite places, Buy Me Toys and Comics, in Mishawaka. We are going to collect toys to donate to them so they can give to the children, not only in the hospital, but the children of the families who stay there and are stuck there over the holidays because, obviously, they need to be there. So it helps, make it easier for the children on both sides of the fence. To try to enjoy the holidays a little bit. So I'm very excited to do this. We're also going to be doing this at Tom Vintage Toys the following weekend as well. And then we'll be taking the stuff over there to donate. So I'm very excited that we're doing this. We did this last year, donated a lot of great toys. If you can't make it, there is a wish list. I will post that wish list again tonight, and you'll see it a few more times on the Midwest Star Wars Fanatics page, my homepage, and any other pages that, I'm a part of. So very excited to do this. Also, too, if you come, bring wear an ugly sweater, a holiday costume. It could be anything. You'll be put into a raffle to win a prize. So it'll be kind of fun to see what everybody's wearing. I'm in the spirit already wearing my Darth Vader sweater. I know it's hard to see. I'll try to hit the wrong button there. The lights actually still light up.
There you go.
Yeah. This thing's probably 4 years old, which is amazing because I actually can wear it again. But it's that time of year, so it's pretty awesome. You guys will see me. I'm going to put it out here. You guys are going to see me in one that you will not expect me wearing on Saturday. So if you want to get a good laugh, make sure you come see me at Buy Me Toys on Saturday.
I don't even know about this. I'm curious.
It'll be funny though, because you will not expect me wearing this one, but very excited about that. Again, everybody is glad to be back. Travis and I, we've been on a little hiatus for a little bit, but it's good to be back. Said we'll be back next week. Let's talk about those collectibles. Let's see what's out there. We just got another comment pop through. Let's see what we got here.
Oh,
Thank you, Joe. Glad to have you on here. Loved your comments as well. Can't wait to see you back on with us next week. And if there's anything you want us to talk about, please let us know. Leave it in the comments. Send us a message. We would love to know what you guys would love to hear us talk about. Looking to hopefully get some guests on here again soon. Get some artists, some actors. Never know who I'll try to bring in here and have a chat with some Star Wars. So again, everybody, thank you so much for watching. We are glad to be back. A lot of great content coming out there. Be safe during this time of the year, holidays, weather, everything else. It's a good time to be a Star Wars fan, everybody. And until next week, again, this is Travis, the Indiana Salone, and Greg, Nerdy Vet 574. Again, make sure you follow our work at the #show.com, hashtag on Twitter and Instagram, you name it. And make sure you check out our sponsors, TRG Toys and Collectibles. Check out your toy needs over there at trgtoyscollectibles.com. I'm sorry, trgtoys.com. Sorry, I added the collectibles on there as well. But until next week, everybody, may the Force be with you.